So I just got done recording a podcast on this film where we talked about this film for over an hour and a half straight, just giving different theories, different interpretations, different breakdowns of what we thought this meant and what we thought that meant. Man, I really enjoy the shit out of this movie a whole hell of a lot. So if you want to hear my spoiler thoughts, you can check for this episode. It should drop maybe tomorrow or the next day. It will depend on when our editor gets to get that done. But I will tell you, I gave this a 9 out of 10. But I want to say this beforehand. This isn't going to be a film for everyone. And I think, first off, this is an ultra low budget film. And the acting in it is, fairly amateurish. It's what you come to expect from lower budget cinema. You're not going to get the most amazing performances ever in this and that. But I think that the performances in this movie are good. They're good. They're not horrible. I think that people who aren't used to ultra low budget cinema would watch this and be like, these guys are terrible. Bullshit. They're not. I've seen terrible acting. It's not even close. But I think that might turn some people off. Plus, I also think that if you were to try to take this movie at face value, you'd be like, that was too confusing. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was too weird. It was too eccentric. But I do feel like the answer is in the film. The writer said so, I guess. I haven't listened to the full podcast, but there's a podcast called Beyond the Void. A buddy of mine, Alex King, he runs that podcast, and he interviewed the writer, who also is the actor. He also did the special effects. And let me tell you something, man. The special effects in this movie, all the kills are on screen, and they're glorious, and they're fucking brutal. And one of them in particular is just fucking, hard to watch. And it's one of those deaths where you kind of have to warn certain people, I don't think you'd be into this. It gets really dark, especially with one kill. But it's this guy. But he's, okay, to get off track here. He is the main actor. He is the writer. He did the special effects. He did the music. He did the editing. This is his passion project. Man, the only thing he did not do is the directing, which the director is the cop in the movie as well. So there's a lot of people taking multiple roles on here. This is low budget filmmaking at its finest. This is guys that were given, that had nothing and made something great. They didn't use that as an excuse. They didn't use that as a crutch. There's so many low budget movies that I watch. And they're like, well, we just didn't have the money. These guys didn't have the money, and they made a kick-ass fucking movie. This is something, I watched it twice. I had to. I watched it once, and I wasn't really getting it. I wasn't really feeling it. And I was like, you know what? Especially that last 10 to 15 minutes. I was like, having now just watched that, I feel like there's a much better movie in here that I may have missed because I kind of already got these preconceived notions from the opening. Because I was like, oh, this is just going to be a straightforward, ghostly kind of thing. And once it started getting deeper into it, and I realized there's lots of symbolisms going on. There's lots of, breadcrumbs that are being left, and there's different interpretations of this film. That's when I wanted to go back for a second viewing and check this out. It's available to rent VOD on Amazon and other places, I think. But I had to go back. I was just like, I got to watch this again because I wanted to talk about it in the podcast. I wanted to get real spoiler heavy with it and give it its full due. And man, I'm so glad that I did because my second viewing was dramatically better for me. I really started to pick up on a lot of things. And I honestly think now that we just talked about it again, I want to watch it a third time because they brought up some things that I kind of had not thought of, and I'd like to see them because this is one of those kinds of movies where it's not told in a linear sense. And I feel like you could pick and choose and grab and, be like, oh, this and that. And that might not be something for everybody. But I also think Brad, when we were talking about it in the review, he was telling me that he thought that if people just watch this straight up as a straightforward narrative, like a linear narrative, and they just took it straight at face value, that they might also find the film very appealing as well. And I think aesthetically that's true. I think that there's a lot of great kills and the story is interesting. It keeps you intrigued the whole time if you're feeling it. If you're not, then obviously it's not the thing for you. But I do think that's true. But yeah, I mean, as far as what the movie's about, it's a guy. He's going out to this house he has out in the mountains or the woods, and he's trying to kick his drug addiction. And he calls up an old girlfriend or an old friend, and he has her come out there and try to help him kick whatever drug he's on. And while he's there, he starts to think he's seeing apparitions, ghosts, whatnot that are haunting him. And it's very generic as far as the synopsis there, but it gets much deeper. And there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to analyze. There's a lot to think about here. So if you're someone who likes those kinds of flicks, that wants to take and break down the film and interpret it in fucking 10 different ways and feel pretty confident of all of them, you're like, I feel like it does. When you watch it, and we were just doing in the podcast, it was like, I feel like this argument can be made for this outcome, and this is what's happening. And it's like, man, that feels really right. But then you argue a completely different scenario and completely different thing. You're like, that feels right, though, because of what's presented. So very clever, very well written, very well thought out. And I don't think it's all unintentional. As I said, the writer said that the answer is in here, if I did say that. I don't even remember if I got to the fucking point. I'm all over the damn place. But if you know me, you know that I was big on this movie, and 9 out of 10, holy shit. But I really feel like it's worth it. I really do. I feel like it lives up to that. I don't feel like I'm blowing smoke. I think if you're a big fan of ultra low budget flicks, and you like to break down films, and you like brutal, gnarly kills, whatnot, this is totally going to be a flick for you. This is, I can't imagine this not making my top 10 for the year. If it doesn't, then man, what a great year. I'm all for 10 movies being even way better than this. I'm good with that. But man, I was real high on this movie, and I watched it twice, and I watched it like 3-4 days ago. It's taken me a while to do this review because I wanted to do it properly. So, if anyone from the crew is watching this, I know it's ultra low budget, so a lot of the times we do run across filmmakers, the directors, the writers, all that stuff, the actors. Man, what a crazy good film. You guys did awesome. So all that hard work paid off big time. Big shout out to the writer, actor, and everything here. Man, wow. Incredible what you pulled off here. Your special effects kicked fucking ass. I know I'm kissing his ass, but just in case, I do want to give that credit to him. Fucking A, and everyone else involved. Cool flick, man. Good job, guys. All right, so let me know if you guys have seen this. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I would love to talk about this. And if you want, as I said, my full thoughts, check out the podcast. It'll be up shortly. All right, guys.